A simple $6 purchase at a fireworks tent just stopped a deadly terror plot in New York City.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a movie, right?
Yeah.
But the forensic trail proves it is entirely true.
Welcome to your custom deep dive. We've got a really wild stack of sources today. Breaking news reports, Department of Homeland Security files, West Point terrorism research, all pointing to a foiled plot that almost devastated New York.
Right. Today, we are unpacking a shocking recent event. So on March 12, 2026, authorities revealed they stopped an ISIS-inspired bombing near Gracie Mansion.
And the suspects. Two teenagers. You've got 18-year-old Emir Balat and 19-year-old Ibrahim Kayumi. They packed a homemade device with explosive powder, rusted nuts, and heavy steel bolts.
Which they then hurled into a crowd at an anti-Muslim rally.
Yeah. Luckily, the device was faulty. It extinguished itself right on the pavement.
Yeah.
But the big break in the case didn't come from like a wiretap or a federal sting.
No, it came when Phantom Fireworks actually checked their own sales logs. They found Balat had bought a 20-foot green safety fuse for exactly $6.89 just days earlier.
Just $6. I mean, it's wild. So our mission today is to track exactly how homemade explosive threats have evolved over the last decade. We're going to explore that massive jump from basic pressure cookers to high-tech drones.
And maybe more importantly, we're going to uncover the surprising ways that law enforcement and private retail companies team up to protect you from these exact kinds of attacks.
Right. But to really understand how two teenagers are building bombs in 2026, we have to look back a decade at the blueprint that that changed everything. Let's travel back to September 2016.
Ah, yeah. Ahmad Khan Rahimi.
Exactly. Rahimi went on this bombing spree across the New York metropolitan area. He planted devices in Seaside Park, New Jersey, the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan, and Elizabeth, New Jersey. The blasts wounded 33 people.
The sheer destructive power of those 2016 attacks was, it was terrifying. On the morning of September 17th, he planted a pipe bomb in a trash can along the route of a charity 5K race.
In Seaside Park, right.
Right, in Seaside Park. And then, later that evening, a homemade pressure cooker bomb exploded in a heavily crowded area of Manhattan. The force of that explosion was so massive, it threw a heavy steel dumpster more than 120 feet through the air.
Oh, wow. A steel dumpster.
Yeah, 120 feet. It shattered heavy glass windows 400 feet away. Rahimi built these using heavy-duty pressure cookers filled with small metal bearings, to act as shrapnel.
And the detonators he used were completely ordinary items. Like, he used basic flip phones and Christmas tree lights. Let's actually talk about how that works, because this is basically a deadly MacGyver project.
It really is.
You pry open a cheap flip phone, right? And you find the tiny internal vibration motor-like, the little mechanism that makes the phone buzz in your pocket. You rip that out and solder the wires directly to the thin wire filament of a standard Christmas tree light bulb.
Yeah, so when you dial that flip phone's number, the electrical current that's meant to spin the vibration motor instead superheats the filament.
And that spark ignites the explosive powder packed inside the pressure cooker. It's terrifyingly simple. He actually copied this exact design from the 2013 Boston Marathon bombers.
Exactly. That simplicity is the core of the threat here. The manhunt for Rahimi was incredibly intense, and it really showed how these devices create just mass chaos. Police found multiple unexploded bombs at a train station in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Oh, wait, wasn't that the one found by the guys looking through the trash?
Yes. Two homeless men actually found a backpack sitting on a garbage can. They looked inside, saw the wires in a pipe, and immediately called 911.
Talk about a lucky break.
Huge break. The police safely detonated one device, though the explosion entirely destroyed a heavily armored police robot in the process.
Wow. And then New York City did something completely unprecedented during this manhunt. They pushed a wireless emergency alert to millions of mobile phones simultaneously. Every phone in the city just buzzed with Rahimi's name.
Right. It was the very first time they ever used that system to hunt for a named suspect.
And the chase ended in a violent shootout in Linden, New Jersey. A local bar owner spotted Rahimi sleeping in a doorway, called the police, and when officers arrived, Rahimi actually shot an officer right in the chest.
Hit his bulletproof vest, right?
Yeah, hit the vest. Police fired back, striking Rahimi 7 times before they finally captured him.
Thankfully, the officer survived. But the incident revealed this really dangerous new reality for law enforcement. You had an individual actor with absolutely no direct ties to a physical terror cell or an overseas training camp, successfully building functional bombs in the kitchen of his family's fried chicken restaurant.
Wait, if terrorists used such basic, easily found parts back in 2016, How has the modern internet changed the game today? It's like moving from folding a basic paper airplane to programming a smart drone. I mean, you wouldn't even need to be a criminal mastermind to figure this out now.
You really don't. And that's what experts call the tactical characterization of these attacks. We're looking at how an attacker actually plans and builds the device.
Okay, so the actual assembly part.
Right. Online extremist magazines and heavily encrypted forums just share step-by-step instructions. Publications like, there's an English language magazine called Inspire, and they literally publish detailed articles titled How to Make a Bomb in the Kitchen of Your Mom.
Unbelievable.
They break down the chemical ratios, the wiring diagrams, everything. This completely lowers the barrier to entry. Anyone with a basic internet connection can learn the mechanics. The overseas training camp now just lives right on their smartphone.
And the internet doesn't just share those old recipes anymore either. It provides entirely new, high-tech ingredients that make these devices cheaper and much harder to detect. Attackers are hooking up cheap microcontrollers to their devices.
Yes, exactly. We are talking about tiny programmable boards like an Arduino Uno or a Raspberry Pi that cost maybe, what, $5 or $10?
Yeah, super cheap. And they aren't just setting basic egg timers anymore. They're programming bombs with smart sensors to detonate only when, say, the ambient temperature drops to a certain degree, or when a specific shadow crosses a light sensor.
Which is terrifying. And the technology escalates even further with artificial intelligence. Generative AI models are completely leveling the playing field for novices here.
Because in the past, learning how to mix volatile chemicals safely took a lot of time and very dangerous trial and error, right?
Exactly. But today, attackers use AI chatbots to circumvent traditional search engine keyword bans. If they type a banned phrase into a regular search engine, it gets flagged. But if they use clever prompting with an AI,
Asking for, like, theoretical college chemistry help or something.
or fuel ratios for novelty rocketry, the AI bypasses those safety rails and just feeds them the exact volatile chemical mix.
Wow. Add 3D printing into the mix, and it gets even worse. Additive manufacturing allows attackers to print custom bomb parts right in their own bedrooms. They print non-metallic firing pins or custom drone drop mechanisms that slide right through a traditional metal detector.
They completely bypass standard supply chain checks because they are manufacturing the weapon from just raw plastic filament.
And the delivery methods have evolved right alongside this. Attackers want to use remote-controlled boats, cars, flying quadcopters to deliver explosives directly to a target from the sky.
The shift from stationary bombs, planted in trash cans, to highly mobile, airborne, improvised explosive devices is one of the most significant tactical shifts authorities are dealing with right now.
But wait, hold on. If they are buying drones, searching for rocket fuel ratios online, ordering 3D printer filament, don't all these high-tech tools leave a massive digital footprint? Why aren't algorithms just catching these guys before they ever build anything?
Well, they do leave a digital footprint, but there's a massive tactical advantage that comes with this new technology. We have to look at the Internet of Things, or IoT, and high-speed 5G networks.
Okay, how so?
These networks allow an attacker to trigger a device from miles away. They can wire a bomb to a cellular receiver and trigger it from a laptop in another state. This means the attacker is nowhere near the scene of the crime when the explosion actually happens.
Oh, wow. So they avoid the immediate risk of running away.
Exactly. By the time the police arrive at the blast radius, the person who triggered it is already miles away, just sitting quietly in a coffee shop, making them incredibly difficult to catch in the act.
Right. So the how has obviously evolved into this crazy high-tech territory. But looking at the sources, the who and the where have also fractured into a highly complex web. The modern threat landscape is just completely fragmented.
It really is. The data highlights a staggering 357% increase in domestic terrorism cases over a recent decade. 357%.
And the ideologies driving this violence are all over the map.
Yeah, the threats are coming from every conceivable direction. You have ISIS-inspired actors. You have white supremacists actively plotting to attack the national power grid by shooting up electrical substations to cause mass chaos.
Right.
You also have anti-government extremists sending death threats to election
finding out your
workers
electric bill
and local public
is secretly
officials.
funding
It sounds
the
like there is
government's
no single
massive spending
profile of a
addiction.
bomber anymore.
It is
Our
a
authorities
pretty
just showing a
shocking
giant
realization
game
when
of
you actually
whack-a-mole
look
with
at
all
the
these
map.
different
Right.
ideologies.
Well,
That is a
imagine for a
very
second
valid
that you have, and
concerted
because
account.
extremists span the entire
And,
political spectrum, authorities
you
have to
swore to
remain
your family,
strictly
hand
impartial.
over heart,
They monitor these specific threats by tracking the indicators of violence. You said, regardless of where the ideology falls. If we don't fix this roof,
the 2026 Gracie Mansion plot we talked about
existential
earlier
crisis
perfectly
for the house.
illustrates
Exactly.
this chaotic
It's the Save the
clash,
House
actually.
fund.
You had
But then,
two
your car breaks
ISIS-inspired
down.
teenagers
You spend a little too much on
specifically
groceries. You
targeting
got bills
a rally
piling up.
organized
So what do?
by a
You raid the
far-right
roof fund.
activist.
Right.
You
It's a
take that
complete
money,
collision
pay
of
off your
different
credit
extreme
cards, and tell your
viewpoints ending
family,
in
hey, don't
violence.
worry,
And the
fix
targets
roof
themselves
later.
are
Right.
expanding. They
And in
look
this
way
scenario,
beyond
the
traditional
roof is the
landmarks or
planet,
military bases
or at least
now.
Maryland's climate
They
goals.
target
And the
soft
car is a
targets like
massive,
crowded public
self-inflicted
spaces, transit systems,
$1.5
and even
billion
individual local
state budget
officials.
deficit. Which is
A
why,
completely
because
avoidable
extremists
deficit, I might add.
span such a wide spectrum of beliefs. Today we're exploring a classic case of fiscal sleight of hand coming out of Annapolis. We're looking at the Strategic Energy Investment Fund. That approach completely fails in a fragmented landscape. It's a huge pot of money
It's like trying to stop a bank robbery by tracking who bought the getaway car, rather than just looking for people wearing ski masks. You don't track the person's profile, you track the tools they need to pull off the crime. It's become the center of a huge political fight. You've got a Democratic governor, frustrated environmentalists making some very awkward compromises, and conservative critics who are rightly calling this whole thing a shell game.
No matter who was trying to buy them. And when you look at the documents, if an individual starts buying massive quantities of explosive critiques from Senate Republicans,
it doesn't matter what their politics are.
Right. It doesn't matter what their political beliefs are or what demographic they belong to. Always follow the money. The physical purchase of those materials is what triggers the investigation.
And since authorities are tracking the materials, that brings us right back to
we'll dig into the argument that
this isn't found money at all. This is essentially a backdoor tax on families.
Let's get right into it. The Strategic Energy Investment Fund. It sounds very official, very important. What does it actually do?
But to actually light the device from a
paper,
distance without
it is the
blowing
state's
themselves up
green
instantly,
piggy bank.
they needed
The
a
SIF
reliable
is managed by the
time delay
Maryland
They needed
Energy
safety.
Administration.
Exactly.
Its whole stated
So
purpose
Emir Balat
is
walked
to
into
reduce
a
energy
suburban
bills,
Pennsylvania
cut
Phantom
waste,
fireworks
and
tent
fund renewable
and bought
energy.
a 20-foot
Like solar
consumer
panels and
safety
efficiency
fuse.
upgrades. And that single,
Exactly.
totally mundane
But here is the
purchase
real
became
aha
their
moment of the
absolute
story.
undoing. This connects directly
Where
to a
does the
critical
money
safety protocol
actually
established
come
years
from?
earlier.
After
Because
the
they
Boston
aren't just
Marathon,
taxing you
right?
directly for it.
After the 2013
politicians
Boston
absolutely
Marathon
love
bombing,
it. It feels free.
Executives
So
at
about
Phantom
40%
Fireworks
comes from
realized
regional
the
carbon
attackers had
auctions.
harvested
But
explosive
the big
powder
chunk,
from
the one
everyday
growing like
consumer
crazy,
fireworks,
comes from something called
the company
alternative
searched their own
compliance
internal
payments,
records and
or
discovered that one of the
ACPs,
Tharnia
Which is just a
brothers
fancy government
had
term
actually
for a
bought
fine.
fireworks at their
It's a
store
fine
in New
for
Hampshire.
failure.
Let me break it
Wow.
down.
And that
Maryland
discovery
law
fundamentally
forces
changed how the
utilities
company
to buy a
operates,
certain
didn't it?
amount
It
of
did.
green energy.
They instituted
They
a
have proved they're
strict,
using
highly
renewables.
proactive
But if they can't
protocol
find that green
that
energy, or if it's
honestly
just
put
way
some
too
local
expensive on the
police
market,
databases
Which
to
it
shame.
usually is.
yeah, the
Anytime
state
a
gives them an
terrorist
escape
suspect is
hatch.
named in the news,
The utility
Phantom
can just pay
Fireworks
a fee
immediately
directly to the
searches their
state
massive
instead.
internal
That fee is
database.
the ACP.
And this database
And
is
here's the kicker.
extensive. It holds nearly 2
Utilities
decades
are
of transaction
increasingly
logs.
just
decades.
paying the
When you
fine
buy
because
fireworks
it's
there,
cheaper than
they
actually
scan your driver's
buying the
license.
green energy.
You sign a
Wait,
physical
so
registration
the
form.
climate fund
They
is getting
timestamp your receipt down to
incredibly
the second,
rich.
and they match that exact timestamp
Precisely
to their store
because
surveillance video
the green
cameras.
energy
So when
mandates
Emir
are failing.
Balat and
Precisely.
Ibrahim
It is
Kayumi
a
were arrested for the
completely
failed
perverse
Gracie Mansion
incentive.
plot,
The government
company
made the
did not
mandate
sit around
so
waiting for a
aggressive, and
federal
the market is
subpoena.
so
They ran
distorted
the names
that power
immediately.
companies
Just on
are
their
just
own.
writing
Right,
checks to
on
the
their
state
own.
instead of
Within
going
minutes,
green.
their
And the
system
stats on
flagged
this are
Bellet's
just
March
staggering.
to purchase
are.
of the green
In
safety fuse.
2022, this revenue
They
was
pulled a
$77
corresponding
million.
surveillance video,
By
which clearly
2025,
showed
it
Balat
jumped to
presenting his ID, signing the registration
$365
form,
million.
and paying $6.89 in cash.
Unbelievable.
They packaged this entire forensic
Right,
digital
so now the
trail
state has
and handed
this
it straight to the
massive
FBI.
accidental
You know, there
pot
is
of
a
gold.
massive
It's
irony here
supposedly
that I
for
just
green
can't get over.
projects.
You can
But
use
remember,
3D
that money didn't
printers
just
in a
fall out of
secret
the sky.
basement
The
to
utility
build
companies
untraceable
paid those
firing
fines.
pins.
And do you
can
think those
use
massive
encrypted
corporations
web
just
forms
eat
and
that
generative
cost out of the
AI
goodness
to
of their
hide
hearts?
your identity
Oh,
and
absolutely
find
not. They
chemical
pass
ratios?
every single
You can
penny of that
program
onto the customer.
microcontrollers
Exactly.
to trigger
It shows
devices
up
from
right
afar.
on your electric
But
bill.
a
So
basic
you,
$6.89
the everyday ratepayer,
green
are paying
fuse
for the
bought at a
utility's
local
failure
fireworks
to meet
tent
a
is what
government
actually
mandate.
gets you caught.
The state
A
collects your
teenager
money,
tried to outsmart
drops
the
it in
federal
the safe,
government
and
using
says,
advanced
"Look
tactics.
at all this cash we
But
have
a
for the
paper
climate."
registration
Which
form
brings
and a
us to
store
the raid.
security camera took him down.
Because that
And
money
that
is
proves a
definitely
vital
not
point
staying
about
in the
modern
climate
security.
fund.
Not anymore.
Technology
Enter
alone
Governor
cannot
Wes
stop these
Moore.
attacks.
His
The government
administration
cannot
is staring
realistically
down a
monitor
projected
every single online
$1.5
search,
billion
every
budget
AI prompt,
deficit.
or every 3D printer running in a
billion.
private home.
The strongest
You can't just
defense we
ignore
actually
a whole
have
that against these
can't.
evolving threats.
And when
is
government
proactive
overspends to that
interagency
degree, they
cooperation.
start checking under
It
the
requires
couch
tight,
cushions for
trusting
loose change.
partnerships between
Except
law
here, the
enforcement and
couch
private
cushion is
sector
the Green
companies like
Energy
Phantom
Fund,
Fireworks.
and
And
the
this goes
loose
way
change
beyond just fireworks tents, right?
So
the
what's the
Department of
actual
Homeland
proposal?
Security
How much are they
manages
taking?
programs. The governor's plan diverts $292 million
and the
directly
bomb-making
from the
materials
safe
awareness
into the
program.
state's general fund.
Just to balance the books. They literally train a
cover their
19-year-old
overspending.
cashier
They
at a local
are
hardware
using
store
energy
on what to
fines
look
to
for.
pay for
They
general
teach that
government
cashier
operations.
how to spot suspicious
Bureaucracy,
behavior.
salaries,
Like if
office
someone comes
supplies,
in
you name
buying
it.
20 gallons of high-concentration hydrogen
I read in the
peroxide, taxes, there's
which
also
is
a rebate scheme.
Yes, this is the part critics are calling a political sweetener.
Maybe they buy that along with a bag of nails and a bunch of instant ice
$100 million
packs.
out of the
They build a
fund
network of
to give a
vigilant citizens and
one-time
business owners who
$40
know the
rebate
warning
to
signs.
eligible households.
When a teenager buys a simple fuse,
So let me get this straight.
the system works
The
because
state
a private
mandates
company
drive up
decided to
energy
keep meticulous
costs.
records and
The
share
utility
them
companies pass
This
those
deep
massive
dive
costs
really
to you and
shows
me.
the crazy
Our bills
collision
go
of
up by
everyday
hundreds of
store-bought
dollars a
items
year.
and advanced technology.
And then the governor
I mean,
takes a
from
chunk of
flip
our own
phones and
money,
pressure cookers
hands
in
us back a crisp
2016 to
$40
weaponized
bill,
drones,
and basically
AI
says,
chatbots,
you're welcome.
and 3D
That is
printing
the
in
exact
2026.
math.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
The
And if you look
tools
at the recent
completely
supplemental
change,
budget,
but
they're
the danger
cutting or
remains
shifting another
exactly
$80
the
million.
same.
It
When you
really
add
does.
all this up,
We see
this
how a
raid depletes the fund by
357%
82%
increase in
in
domestic
domestic
80%
cases,
of the fund
forces
wiped
police
out.
to stop profiling
Leaving
people
only
and
about
start tracking them apart.
$164 million
And
for
we
the
see how
actual
a
green
$6
initiatives it was
purchase
legally
can
meant
unravel
for.
an entire
That is not a
terror
trim.
plot.
That's a
The rapid
total
evolution
gutting.
of these threats
And this
requires
is where the
constant
politics
vigilance.
gets super
The
interesting.
attackers
Because you would
continuously
assume the
innovate their tactics,
environmentalist
so our
groups
public
like the
defenses and
Sierra
private sector
Club or the
protocols must
Chesapeake
innovate
Climate
even
Action
faster.
Network,
That
you assume they'd
partnership
be
between public
furious.
safety officials
They
and
were
everyday retail
initially
companies is our
when
best
this
shield.
first leaked.
Absolutely.
They
Well,
called
I
it
wanna leave you with one
unacceptable. They
completely
said it
new
was a
thought from
huge
all over
mistake
today.
to use
We talked a lot
this
about
money
terrorists
as a
physically
petty
building
cash
devices
drawer.
and buying
But
parts like
then they
fuses or
folded.
pressure
They completely
cookers.
folded.
But think about the
Now
Internet of
they
Things
are
we
actually
mentioned earlier.
supporting
This
parts of the
network
governor's
connects our
spending
refrigerators, our
plan.
cars, our
Talk
baby
about
monitors, and
strange
our home
bedfellows.
thermostats directly
Why
to
on
the
earth would they
global
do
web.
that? If they
As
truly
these
believe
systems
climate
get
change
more
is an
complex and
existential
integrated,
crisis,
could
why
the
let the
everyday
state
items
raid
already
the
sitting
survival
inside your own
fund?
home
It's
be
just
remotely
raw
hacked
political
and
calculation.
weaponized
They know
without an
voters are
attacker
getting
ever
crushed
needing
by
to buy a
inflation and high
single
energy
physical
bills right now.
component.
That is
If these
a
green groups
genuinely
attack a
terrifying
$40
possibility.
rebate,
It is a wild
even if
thought
it's a
to
total
consider where
gimmick,
the threat goes next.
they look like they don't care
Keep
about
questioning
working
the world
families.
around you
So they
and
have to
stay
play the game.
endlessly curious.
They are
Catch
swallowing
you
a
next time.
very bitter